In this video, I will reveal David Copperfield's Vanishing of the Statue of Liberty illusion. This will be an in-depth explanation unlike you've ever seen before. Here's a quick recap of what happened. In this legendary performance, David Copperfield begins by placing 3 Kodomatic instant cameras around the Statue of Liberty, each one locked and guarded by a female assistant, to capture evidence of its impending disappearance. A radar unit is also set up to track the statue's presence, and Copperfield explains that once the vanish takes place, 2 powerful beams of light will cut across the empty space to prove it is gone. The statue is concealed by a massive curtain stretched between 2 tall towers standing on either side of the audience. At the climactic moment, Copperfield directs his focus toward the radar, and the statue disappears. When the curtain is lowered, the Statue of Liberty is gone. A helicopter hovers above, and the beams of light shine through the empty space where it once stood, completing a breathtaking illusion that remains one of the most remarkable feats in magic history. Well, how did he perform this trick? I'll provide some hints. See if you can figure this out on your own. The first and most obvious thing we observe regarding this trick is that this statue vanishing act was done at night. David Copperfield did not perform this incredible act during the day. If he had performed this act during the day, none of the extra proofs he relied on at night would have been necessary. The beam of light passing through the empty space, the radar tracking the statue, and the photographs taken from 3 different camera angles were all layers of evidence that only made sense in the darkness. In daylight, the moment the curtain dropped, everyone would have been able to see with their own eyes whether the statue had vanished or not. Furthermore, performing the illusion in complete darkness meant the statue was visible only because of 2 lighting systems. The first came from the statue itself, such as the crown and the torch flame, and the second was the ring of circular lights at the base, shining upward. If these lights were switched off, the pitch-black surroundings would make the statue vanish completely without even needing a curtain. And given its location, far from the city lights and standing in isolation, these 2 lighting systems were the sole reason the statue could be seen at all. Based on this photo, the live viewers of this event were positioned at this particular location, judging by the footage that was filmed from the spectator's point of view, since the statue's face is visible from here. But none of this explains how David Copperfield was able to shine beams of light straight through the base of the statue, while the ring of lights around the foundation still appeared visible. But wait, notice the bright lights attached to both of the pillars holding the curtain. Instead of aiming them at the statue to light it up, Copperfield had them pointed directly into the faces of the audience watching the illusion. The use of the curtain was another questionable layer in this illusion. Performing it at night was already a huge advantage for Copperfield in making the statue vanish, so why add curtains on top of that? A curtain would make sense in the daytime, when removing it would reveal whether the statue was there or not, but at night, the vanish was already in his favor. The choice to perform it in darkness and still hide it behind a curtain suggests that something about the statue's lighting was being manipulated, and it was something Copperfield did not want the audience to see. And one last detail worth noting is the role of the music, since a popular theory claims it played a much bigger part in the illusion than most people realize. Copperfield is well known for using music to heighten the atmosphere of his acts. But in this case, the amplified soundtrack was also used as part of the method, masking the subtle sounds that made the illusion possible. By now, you may have started putting the puzzle pieces together and worked out most of the method David Copperfield used to make the Statue of Liberty appear to vanish. Let's start by explaining why the lights were directed into the viewers' faces, so the statue would no longer be visible and appear to vanish. To understand this, we need to look at the science behind how our eyes react to light. When light enters the eye, it passes through the cornea and into the pupil, which expands or contracts with the help of the iris muscles. When a bright or high-intensity light shines directly into the eyes, the iris constricts the pupil to reduce the amount of light entering. This mechanism protects the sensitive cone cells from becoming overstimulated by the glare. Now, you may be wondering what cone cells actually are. Our retina contains 2 specialized types of cells that process light. The first are rod cells, and the second are cone cells. Rod cells are extremely sensitive to light and handle our night vision. They can detect how bright or dim something is, but they cannot distinguish color. Cone cells, on the other hand, respond to a broad range of light wavelengths and are responsible for our color vision. In places like Singapore, the light pollution is so extreme that people's eyes never fully adjust to the dark at all. The reason behind this is our scotopic vision. Scotopic vision is what we rely on in very low light conditions, while our normal bright light, photopic vision, is driven by three types of color-sensitive cone cells. Scotopic vision comes from rod cells. Rod cells are excellent at detecting brightness and working in dim environments, but they cannot distinguish colors. This is why light pollution interferes with our rod cells and blocks us from seeing the stars in the night sky. And this is the same principle Copperfield exploited. Those blinding lights aimed directly into the faces of the spectators caused the pupils to constrict, shutting down the very mechanism that would have allowed the audience to adapt to the darkness and see the statue. This happens because the iris contracts and reduces the amount of light entering the eye. When that happens, the rod cells can no longer function at their full capacity, which prevents them from enhancing our ability to see in the dark. Furthermore, unlike the stars in space that have their own light that they emit, the statue was not emitting any light since the lights were turned off, which makes it even more impossible to view in real time and in the footage. To answer how David Copperfield was able to shine beams of light right through the location where the Statue of Liberty once stood, we can refer back to the image of the statue itself. On the right side of the statue, there is enough space to build a circular light structure designed to mimic the ring of lights that normally surrounds the base of the statue. Keep in mind that this illusion was performed at night. From the top view, when the helicopter shined beams of light onto the area where the statue was supposed to be, the beams were actually aimed just beside it toward a replica ring of lights designed to look almost identical to the real ones around the statue's base. In such darkness, it was impossible to tell the difference. Since those duplicate lights were the only visual marker that identified the statue's position from above, Copperfield cleverly used them to create the impression that the base was still there. Behind the curtain, the actual lights, built into the statue and around its base, were switched off, and the replica lights were turned on. This swap happened so quickly that the audience could not notice the interval when the original lights were cut and the duplicates took their place. And finally, I'll address the popular explanation about the loud music and the platform. The loud music was not a red herring. It actually played a role. It covered the low mechanical hum and tiny vibrations you get when a large circular platform turns, and it kept the audience's attention emotionally elevated while the staging did the work. In this setup, the spectators, the two towers holding the curtain, the radar unit, the cameras aligned to the audience, and David Copperfield himself were all on a single circular platform. During the blackout behind the curtain, that platform rotated clockwise by a controlled amount. So after the slow rotation, the line of sight from the audience and cameras lined up so that one of the towers physically blocked the statue. When the curtain dropped, the statue seemed to be gone, but in reality it was hidden behind the tower from that new viewing angle. The bright lights aimed toward the audience also kept their eyes from adapting to the dark, so even subtle skyline references that might have given it away were suppressed. From the audience's perspective, the moment those blinding lights shined into their eyes, the Statue of Liberty seemed to dissolve into the darkness. Even if a faint outline was still there, the glare completely overpowered their vision, making the statue vanish right before them. Now, could something that large actually rotate smoothly? Yes, because when the weight is spread across a ring of rollers and powered by multiple low-speed motors, the torque is shared, and the slow movement makes the rotation almost imperceptible. You can see this principle in action at the 360-degree restaurant in Toronto's CN Tower, which completes a full rotation every 72 minutes, while carrying hundreds of diners high above the ground. In Las Vegas, the top of the World Restaurant does the same, revolving steadily once every 80 minutes. And in Seattle, the Space Needle's loop takes it even further, with a rotating glass floor powered by a dozen motors, finishing a turn in about 45 minutes. These examples prove that massive turntables supporting heavy loads can rotate quietly and reliably. In Copperfield's illusion, the same principle was applied. The loud music masked any subtle mechanical sounds. The bright lights kept the audience from adapting to the dark, and the platform's slow clockwise turn shifted the sightline until the left tower blocked the statue from view. The radar that David Copperfield used was nothing more than a staged prop. With the lighting and camera angles already under his control, adding a radar unit was simply another element to make the illusion appear convincing. However, this choice ended up backfiring. Because the radar was fixed to the same rotating platform as the audience, the towers, and Copperfield, it turned along with them. In the footage, the reflection of the radar can actually be seen rotating anti-clockwise, which is exactly what happens when the object itself is rotating clockwise. That reflection confirms the physics of the platform's controlled rotation and directly exposes the method Copperfield used to make the Statue of Liberty appear to vanish. Behind this mask, only the truth remains till we meet again.